Hey, I'm John Mitchell and you're watching Bubble TV. This is where I try and help you achieve your goals in VCE, and this is another episode of Whiteboard Wednesday where I try and answer your questions. And today's question comes from Tom, and he writes, "Awesome video." Well, thanks very much, Tom. Just curious if the past students who performed well, did they do BizMan every night? I know you said last year's students summarised every night, but is that necessary? Also, if you could give 5 to 10 tips on how you think achieving a 40 plus study score could be done, I think that would be very insightful. Well, Tom, there's some really big parts to that question. I'll do my best to answer it. Firstly, you asked that question a few weeks ago, and I've been working on it ever since because I thought, well, I know what I think students should do to achieve a 40 plus, but I thought it might be even better if I do some research and ask those that actually got a 40 plus and what they found most useful and what helped them the most. So I did that. So I asked a lot of the guys from last year that got a 40 plus, and so a lot of today's Whiteboard Wednesday is based on the answers that they gave me to that. But to break your question down, firstly, did all those that got a 40 plus last year, for me, or for us, did all of them do BizMan every night? And the straight answer is no, they didn't. Some did some did around about 3 nights a week, some did a little bit less than that. But one thing they did do, those that, when they were preparing for SACs and the exam, what I can tell you for a fact is that they did lots, and some of them did move up to doing work every single night. Now, on to the second part of your question, where you say, I know a student last year did BizMan every single night, and you're asking if that's necessary. First of all, just those that aren't aware, Tom's talking about another video that we did where I said that we had a student get a 50 last year and he did BizMan every single night. He did summaries every night. But in terms of is that necessary, no, it's not. And I spoke to him because he's in Year 12 this year, and I spoke to him over the last couple of weeks what his thoughts were, and even he said that that was excessive. But what he did say was that if you want to do really, really well, so we're talking high 40s here, it's his belief that you need to be doing pretty close to that. Now, in my opinion, what you need to do is you need to continually test yourself. So whether you get your friends or your family to ask you questions and then try and explain whatever they're asking, then you'll find out what you know and what you don't know, and you'll figure out things that you're struggling, and all you need to do is just continue to do more work on those areas until you know everything really well. So whether that's every night that you have to do summaries, in my opinion, I think you should just be doing enough work until you know everything really well. Here are the top 5 tips I got from the students last year that got it above 40, and the first one was that they set goals and reviewed those goals. So most of them set goals for every single SAC, and what they did was, they then reviewed. So first of all, most of them, their goal was not to drop a mark in the SAC because they wanted to do really well, clearly. And then they would review it and say, well, if they did drop a mark, or even if they didn't, they'd review and say, well, what can I improve on in terms of my preparation? Then they'd make any adjustments. Now, number 2 seems pretty straightforward, but they all said, well, you've got to learn the content. And some of them said, they use summaries, they mind map, they got people to test them, whether that be friends or family. They answered questions from the textbook, they actually read the textbook, they watched videos, etc, etc. All of that, how they actually learned the content was very individual. They all came up with different techniques. So that's an individual thing. But every single one of them would spend time, so it wasn't just a matter of doing the homework or the work in class. Every single one of them said they spent more time on top of the homework that they were doing. So they're actually revising and going over the content above and beyond what the teacher was setting for homework. Now, number 3 was you need to learn how to answer the questions. Now, I'm glad they all said this because I've been banging on about this for years, ever since I've been teaching business. Now, what we mean by that is learning the content is one thing, but then you need to actually understand what an exam or a SAC question actually is asking you to do, and that's really crucial. And to give you an example, in last year's exam, there was a question that said something like, compare the centralised and decentralised employee relations systems in Australia. Now, that's a topic that students normally struggle with, and last year was no different. But what there was some brilliant students, some students that knew the content really well. They knew clearly what a centralised and decentralised system was with employee relations, but they didn't get full marks because the question said compare, and all they did was either just do the similarities between the two systems or they did the differences between the two systems. They didn't do both. And the word compare means that you have to give similarities and differences. So there's no way they could get full marks for that, no matter how brilliant they were. So learning the words analyse, discuss, evaluate, all those kind of words, even describe and explain, you need to know what they mean so that you need to know what the question is asking you, so you actually know what to put in the answer. That's really important. Now number 4, and I found this one really interesting actually because I didn't expect it, and that was that most of them said that you needed to focus on improving your timing in exams or in SACs as well. And so they found that at the start of the year they were really time pressured in SACs to try and get everything done because the better students are trying to normally put more content into their answers. And so they had to work at improving the way they thought about what was going to go into the answer, and then in terms of how much time they used to actually write the answer. And number 5 is linking to the content to real life examples. So what a lot of them spoke about was that they would read the newspaper, they would watch the news, read magazines and things like that, so that they would actually pick up the content that they were learning in class and seeing how it actually applied in the real world. They found that that actually helped their understanding. So to give you an example, one of them mentioned that they were watching the news one day and there was a strike and a picket line on the news, so it was one of the top stories on the news, and they saw the real impact that dealing positively or negatively with employee relations, the impact they can have on an organisation. So Tom, that was my answer to your question. I hope it helps, and let us know how you go in your SACs and your exam at the end of the year. We're always interested to find out. Now it's over to all you guys. What tips or strategies or advice do you have that are going to help people achieve success in business management? If they want to score above 40, how are they going to get it? Do you agree or disagree with the 5 we just went through? Head over to the blog right now and let us know your thoughts. To let us know your tips or strategies on how people can succeed in business management this year and get a score above 40, head over to teachingbubble.com/blog and type your answer into the comments section. Did you like this video and find it helpful? If so, then subscribe to us. And we'd love you to share it with all your friends. And remember, if you want even more resources to help you achieve your goals in VCE this year, then head over to the only place to be, teachingbubble.com. Continue to stay focused on your goals and dreams, work hard, and don't be scared to ask for help. You really can achieve what you set your mind to. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time on Bubble TV. Revision lectures are coming up. Want in? For more information, come over to teachingbubble.com.